So today we'll be taking a look at Unit 5, Plants. In this unit, we'll be looking at 6 different uh, covered lessons that will be covered, starting off with characteristics in 12.1, where we'll go through the history of plants, their characteristics and functions, and then we'll head into leaves 12.2, stems in 12.3, roots in 12.4, transportation in the plant in 12.5, and then lastly we'll finish off with sugar production. So, to get started, plant characteristics and functions. So, evolution of plants. Scientists believe terrestrial plants evolved from green algae due to similarities such as starch, food reserve, uh, cellulose in cell walls, and the use of chlorophyll. Uh, as well, through the history, plants have tried to adapt to different environments, right? Like in drier environments, having bark and being able to absorb water and hold on to it. And as also in their modes of reproduction through like flowers, seeds, spores. So that like obviously has changed over time due to the environments they've been exposed to and like mutations. The first plants were believed to be non-vascular, like relying on osmosis and diffusion, while the evolution of vascular plants introduced specialized tissue, xylem, phylum for like efficient water and nutrient transportation throughout the plant. Talking about the plant tissue, there's 4 different plant tissues: mesomeric tissue, dermal tissue, ground tissue, and vascular tissue. Uh, for mesomeric tissue, this is where like the growth of the cell occurs. For dermal tissue, this is the outermost layer of the cell, and here it's like basically protect the plant from its outside environment. And then ground tissue, it's the innermost. It's on vascular tissue, and it basically stores nutrients and is basically the site of photosynthesis. And then lastly, vascular tissue includes cells involved in transporting nutrients and water through the plant with xylem and phylum. Types of vascular plants. There are 2 main types of vascular plants: gymnosperms and angiosperms. Gymnosperms are basically stuff that's like coniferous trees, basically seeds which appear on the cones. Type of trees make up majority of the Canadian forests, and angiosperms are made up of 2 or more species, are made up of many more species than gymnosperms. They reproduce using flowers and many and encasing seeds and fruits. They live in a wide variety of habitats. Now looking at monocot versus dicots. Monocots are angiosperms that have one seed leaf. The veins in the leaves are parallel. The vascular bundles and the stems are scattered, and flower petals come in parts of 3. Only 10% have a woody stem, and most have a herbaceous stem, which is soft and fleshy. Okay. Now looking at sorry. Now looking at dicots. Dicots are also angiosperms that have 2 seed leaves. Veins in leaves are vascular bundles, and stems are arranged in a ring, and the flowers have petals in multiples of 4 or 5. So this is our second lesson: leaves. Function of leaves. The function of leaves surround 3 main processes. First, in manufacturing photosynthesis, right? Because the leaves are exposed to sunlight, exposed to water and rainfall, and also exposed to carbon dioxide. Those are the 3 main components of photosynthesis. So it's able to absorb all of it, as well as they have the chlorophyll in those cells on the leaves to produce the photosynthesis process. The second one is exchange of gases. Basically, there's little openings on the end of the leaves called somatos, and that's where the gas exchange happens. Oxygen in, carbon dioxide out, and that's during the night. That's during the night, and then in the mornings or when the plant's active, it's carbon dioxide in, oxygen out. And then lastly, transpiration. This is the function and process where leaves basically release water through the somatas for the purpose of either cooling the plant and for the absorption of water in minerals. Cellular structure. So there basically is highly around 6 important parts of the leaves and the cellular structure. The cuticle, the outermost layer, it prevents water loss by being clear and waxy. There's epidermis, which is a layer of cells that provide protection tissues. There's mesophyll, which is located between the epidermal layers. Within the cells are pastillide cells that are all tightly kneaded, and the chloroplast, and they basically help with chloroplast for the process of photosynthesis. The other three are stomates, which we just went through, which are basically the openings on the leaves that allow for the input of oxygen, the input of carbon dioxide, the releasing of water, all that kind of stuff. There's the guard cells. These are basically that are around the somata and basically regulate how the somata opens and closes and what comes in, what goes out. And then lastly, the veins, like animals, are vascular tissue that contains from the leaves to the stem. Xylem veins, I think it's the pronouns, carry water and minerals upwards into the leaves, and phylum carries dissolved food through the plant where it's needed. Specialized leaves, stuff such as the spring Venus flytrap. Obviously, that's not the most common type of leaf, and in that one, it actually has triggers that like allow the plant when feeling its prey on it to trigger and close itself and release acids to kill their prey. And so also as well, some plants obtain nitrogen from digesting animals and insects like the Venus flytrap, and so this way they have specialized leaves. Human use. The reason why this is important for humans is because they, without the leaves and without the somatas, we wouldn't have the clean oxygen that the plants provide, and they wouldn't be able to consume a byproduct of carbon. So there'd be a lot more carbon in the atmosphere, and that would contribute to global warmings. Our next lesson is on stems. So stem function. What is stem function? It's basically most of its function is to hold up a cell as well as connect the roots to the leaves in terms of mineral transportation or water transportation. And it's primarily a defense mechanism as well. So there's three stem tissues: the dermal tissue, which is the outer surface of the stem; the ground tissue, which makes up the parenchyma cells surrounding the vascular tissue; and the vascular tissue, which is what is used to transport and is the structural support of the stem. So stem types, there's a couple different types. So we have the herbaceous, which is a fleshy stem, which is usually thinner, softer, and it looks green. They contain little to no wood and are found in annual plants such as the bean plant. Woody, obviously by its name, it's wood. And so these actually grow in diameter each year and are found in perennial plants such as trees, right? So stem types continuous. On our left here, we have an example of a woody type of stem. And as you can see, the xylem rays, phylum rays, it basically goes through on the left here, the diagram of it, as well as each year, right? There's another layer added and it grows in diameter. So it gets thicker and thicker and wider. So the vascular cambium, these are specific parts, divides and results in the secondary phylum and inside along with the increase in thickness. The core cambium, this is then formed with a consistent of dead cells that protect against damage. For the formation of wood, layers of xylem produced every year, and these create different layers in the wood, such as heartwood and sapwood. For human use, humans rely heavily upon the stem as resources. So you can see this on the wood from trees stem as resources and mainly daily appliances such as furniture, housing, right? Especially in Canada, right? Forestry is a big business, and what Canada relies on heavily, especially when dealing with other countries and stuff like that, because of how many trees and forests we have here in Canada. So yeah, stuff like furniture, everyday appliances. So lesson 4, roots. Roots functions. So function of the roots include absorbing water and nutrients for the plants, storing the plant food in carbohydrates, and then it basically anchors the plant in the soil so it doesn't fall or move around too much, right? And connects it to the soil. The root types. There are two main root types, which are taproots and fibrous roots. Taproots are usually longer and thicker roots and are found in dicot plants. And this type of root grows downwards rather than to the side and outwards. Fibrous roots are basically the opposite, are found in monocots, and they don't feature a main root but are made up of many thin roots, and they can grow outwards instead of just down. So for root structure, the tips of the root consist of meristems and a root cap. The meristems are a region of basically rapid mitosis. I'm sure we know what mitosis is by now, but basically the process of like cell growth and the multiplication of cell through cell division. And this results basically in the roots growing, right? Obviously, with plants, the older they get, the longer their roots go, right? If you've ever seen a tree from 100 years ago, or that's pretty old, but like 50 years ago, right? The roots go really deep into the ground just because mitosis is always occurring and the roots are always growing. The root cap protects the meristems as the tip of the roots grow through the soil. So basically, it's like a cap guard, essentially. So basically, for the root structure continuous, this is more of a diagram of what the roots look like on the left here. The epidermis, which is located on the outermost layer, as we can see in the diagram. It basically has hairs on it, which are very fine extensions that help absorb waters and minerals that are found in the soil. They are located around the vascular cylinder of the root, is the endodermis, the pericycle and vascular cambium. The endodermis regulates lateral movement of water and minerals throughout the roots, and the pericycle gives rise to secondary roots and produces lateral roots. It is located inside the endodermis and the outside of the vascular bundle. The vascular cambium is the older part of the root that separates the xylem from the phylum. It produces phylum cells outside and xylem inside. It helps us push the pericycle further outwards. So for human use, roots are a valuable resource to humans as they can be used for food. Like carrots are basically considered a root, potatoes are considered a root, right? And also in like teas, like herbal remedies, and even in medicine sometimes too, roots can be helpful and be found in there. So that's for human use. So transport in plants. Transport in plants. So translocation is the general term that's used to refer to the transportation in plants, basically movement from materials from one part to another. This is xylem versus phylum. Xylem cells carry water and minerals from the roots of the plants to the stems and leaves, and their cells thicken and die, providing a hollow tube for transport, which makes xylem cells dead, not alive. Phylum are the basically the opposite. It transports organic materials, anti-nutrients, and hormones throughout the plant, which makes the cells alive. To compare, basically, one's dead, one's alive. Uh, and yeah, so on the left here, we can see xylem, water and minerals, and it's only one way. And then on the right, we have phylum, which is water and food. Cells have end walls with purifications, and it's a two-way flow. The transporting xylem within the stem, water and minerals are moved by diffusion. The three mechanisms used in water transportation are the roots pressure, capillary action, and cohesion tension. Root pressure, basically when the roots can build up a pressure that forces the water upwards. Capillary action is a transportation mechanism that relies on the adhesive properties of water. They rely on the fact that they like to cling together and to the sides of the tube. The scientific term for this are cohesive and adhesive forces. And I think we can see it a bit on the right here in the diagram. And then lastly, cohesion tension, which is also known as transpiration. Pull is when the water is pulled up through the roots as the molecules evaporate from the somatas of the leaf. Another one takes its spot. So it's kind of like almost like a chain because one leaves, the other one comes up next to it or behind it and fills in that slot. So our last lesson here is on sugar production. Where is sugar produced? Sugar is produced the leaves of the plant through photosynthesis process. All right, the plant absorbs sunlight from the sun, water, and carbon dioxide, and then it does photosynthesis with the chloroplast in the cells of the leaf, and then it produces sugars and oxygen. With the oxygen is obviously released out into our environment. How is sugar produced? These are the four main steps. So light absorption, like I said, water splitting, which is the absorbed light energy, splits water molecules into oxygen, protons, and electrons. This is where the energy is created. Energy conversion, the light energy is converted into chemical energy, stored as ATP and NADPH. And then lastly, carbon fixation. Basically, in the Calvin cycle, carbon dioxide from the air is combined with the chemical energy, like we mentioned before, ATP and NADPH, to produce glucose, which is the sugar, which is the energy of the plant. Overall, the formula for photosynthesis is right here at the bottom. And this basically means carbon dioxide and water using light energy are converted into glucose and oxygen. So let me just next slide here. So how is sugar transported? Sugar is transported through the phylum, which is part of the plant's vascular system. Sugar production is produced in leaves during photosynthesis. The sugar is loaded into phylum vessels in the leaves. The phylum transports the sugar throughout the plant to where it is needed, such as growing tissues, roots, and storage organs. The sugar is unloaded from the phylum into the cells that are needed for energy growth or storage. And the process is also known as translocation, ensures that the energy in the form of sugar reaches all parts of the plant. So that ends our 6 lessons. Here are some videos that I found helpful. Some of them go into the difference between the xylem and phylum. Some go through the depths of photosynthesis and the actual process that occurs and the chemical reactions. So definitely, I'd suggest after looking at this lesson, going on to this slideshow and clicking probably all 3 videos to watch, as they're all 3 of them are very informative. So lastly, thank you. Hopefully by the end of this presentation, you have a good understanding of plants and all the functions and characteristics that come with them. And yeah, so thank you for tuning into this lesson, and I hope you guys gain something from this. And yeah, this is plants. Thank you.